Let me tell you a story about an agnostic. All right, so it's a pretty cool story. It's told in my favorite book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norm Geisler and Frank Turk. I talk about that book all the time. I absolutely love it. Definitely recommend you read it, whether you're a believer or not. It's got incredible evidence for both sides, right? It shows what you believe, it shows what we believe, and it puts the two together and kind of shows the difference. So check it out if you would like to. But this is told from the first person perspective of Norm, who was out back in the day, kind of door to door evangelizing, and not something you see very much anymore. But he was doing that, and he knocked on the door with a partner of his that was with him, and they said to the guy's name was Don. They introduced themselves, and the next thing you're supposed to say, and he's following this evangelism tactic, right? Where you say, "Hey, Don, can I ask you a question?" And he says, "Sure." Or, "Can I ask you a spiritual question?" Actually, he says, "Sure." And he says, "If you were to die right now and go to the gates of heaven, and God asked you, 'Why should I let you into my kingdom?' What would you say?" And he said, which was not in the script, Don said, "I would say, 'Why shouldn't you let me into your kingdom?'" And so Norm, he's like, "That's not in the playbook. I don't know what to say." He starts scrambling a little bit, but he thought he's quick. He's a very smart guy. He said, "Okay, let me ask you another question then, Norm. Don, if me and my partner here, we're knocking on your door, and we say, 'Hey, we want to come in your house,' and you say, 'No, you can't come into my house,' and we say, 'Why shouldn't we come into your house?' What would you say to us?" And he'd say, "I tell you, or you can get off." And he said, "Well, that's what God's going to say to you." And he's like, "Well, that's okay, because I don't even believe in God anyway." And he's like, "So you're an atheist?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God." He said, "Okay, are you absolutely sure? Can you say without a shadow of a doubt that you're absolutely sure there is no God?" And he's like, "Well, no. I guess maybe there could be a God. I don't, I haven't seen any evidence that there's a God, so I don't think there's a God." And he's like, "But you don't know for sure, right? So, for example, if there's all the knowledge in the world, right? I'm going off script a little bit. This was not in the story, but this is a good way to think about it. If there's all the knowledge in the world, do you know all of that knowledge?" Obviously, anybody, including myself, would have to say no, right? And so you would have to say, well, could there be, let me ask you this, could there be one piece of that knowledge that is in the entire knowledge in the universe that proves that there is a God? Well, then yeah, I guess there could be. So you don't know 100% sure that there's not a God because you don't know 100% of the information in the universe. And one piece of that information might prove there's a God, right? So we have to say we don't know for sure. We just suspect there's not or something like that. So that's similar to what he said to Don here in this story. He said, "So you know 100% that there's no God?" And he's like, "Well, I guess not. There could be a God. I haven't seen any evidence." He says, "Okay, so you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic." An agnostic is someone that says, "I don't know if there's a God," right? And so he goes on to say, "All right, so are you an ordinary agnostic? Are you an ornery? That's what, ornery agnostic, right?" And an ordinary agnostic is just, I don't know if there's a God. An ornery agnostic is you can't know anything about anything. Knowledge is unknowable. Like there's no truth. You don't know. There's nothing that you can know for sure, is what Don said. And he said, "So there's nothing you can know for sure?" And he said, "Yes, I'm an ornery agnostic because you can't know anything for sure." And so Norm, once again, being quick on his feet, said, "Well, do you know that for sure?" Don was starting to pick up here, right? It was flawed logic. It's a self-defeating statement. And you'll be surprised how many people out there with similar beliefs use these kind of statements. Like, all truth is relative. Well, then your statement is relative. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, right? Or you can't know anything for sure. Well, then you don't know that you can't know anything for sure because you just said you can't know anything for sure. So your statement might not be sure. So they got to talking with Don, and Don picked it up, and he said, "Well, Don, What would make you believe that there is a God? And this is key. And Don said, I'd need to see the evidence. Absolutely. That's what we need to look at. That's the point. You need to look at the evidence. And so he said, Don, are you willing to look at some evidence? And so they showed him some evidence. Obviously, Norm is the smart guy. He showed him the Bible, different things, evidence, whatnot. And obviously, all of his evidence, and then some, I'm sure, because he probably didn't even have it all compiled as such, is in his book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. But after Don reviewed the evidence, he became a Christian. He accepted Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, and he went on to be an amazing witness and servant in his local church. And he helped thousands of kids in his lifetime. And that is all due to Norm just saying, hey, maybe your logic is a little flawed. Have you thought about this? Right? How do you know that for sure? He's like, well, I don't, right? And so many people think they know something for sure until they realize, you know what? I actually don't. And that's okay. You don't have to know the other side, but you have to be willing to look at the evidence. And so I implore everybody that's watching, and I know this one's a little bit long, but it's a good one, or it's a good story. I'm not saying this devotion is good, but look at the evidence and start with the Bible, start with a book, a resource. Like, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And if you do, hit me up, let me know that you did, and let me know your thoughts. Take care. God bless, and I'll see you next time. Bye.